Have you ever wondered why some men never have to chase, yet women seem to be drawn to them effortlessly? It's not luck and it's not magic. It's energy, it's presence. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going. Most men waste their power trying to impress, convince, or prove themselves worthy of attention. But the truth is, the moment you chase, you tell the world that you believe someone else has more value than you. And that belief silently kills your attraction. A woman doesn't fall for the man who runs after her. She falls for the man who makes her stop and wonder why he isn't chasing at all. Because real attraction isn't built through words or effort. It's built through energy, the kind that says, I'm whole without you. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes her curious. That's what makes her want to know more. You see, attraction isn't about pursuit. It's about presence. When you live with purpose, when you move with intention, when your time has meaning, people feel it. Women feel it. The reason most men fail is because they place women at the center of their focus. But the men who are truly desired make themselves the center of their own universe. They chase their goals, their growth, their peace, their potential, and because of that, they radiate something rare, something almost untouchable. A man who doesn't need validation becomes the kind of man who naturally receives it. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's knowing that you have nothing to prove because your value isn't up for negotiation. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you felt genuinely alive, like you were moving through life on your terms? That feeling, that freedom is exactly what draws people in. Women are attracted to energy that feels unshakable, not desperate. They can sense when a man's emotions depend on their attention. And when they do, the attraction dies. But when your focus is on your mission, your growth, your evolution, something shifts. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability sparks curiosity. You become mysterious, and mystery creates attraction. So the question isn't, how do I make women chase me? The real question is, how do I become the kind of man who doesn't need to chase anyone? Because the moment you stop needing, you start attracting. When you stop seeking approval, your silence becomes powerful. Your space becomes valuable. Your time becomes sacred. And that's when people start wanting to be part of your world. You don't need to speak louder. You don't need to act tougher. You just need to stand firm in who you are and let your actions whisper your worth. If you stay until the end of this video, you'll learn the psychological shift that turns pursuit into attraction. The mindset that flips the script completely. You'll understand how to stop chasing and start becoming. Because when you truly master yourself, the right people won't just notice you, they'll chase the energy they can't find anywhere else. Stay with me, and by the end, you'll know exactly how to become that man. Calm, grounded, powerful, the kind of man women don't just want to meet, but can't stop thinking about. Every man wants to feel desired, to be the one who turns heads, who commands attention without saying a word. But what separates the man who's desired from the one who's ignored is invisible. It lives inside his mindset. The truth is, attraction starts in the mind long before it ever shows in behavior. It's not about what you do to get attention. It's about what you believe about yourself when no one is watching. Because your belief silently dictates your energy, your tone, your posture, your words, and the way you walk into a room. Women don't fall for what you show them, they fall for what they feel from you. When your energy says, I am enough, it creates space for others to be drawn toward you. But when your energy whispers, I need validation, it repels. You might smile, you might talk confidently, you might say all the right things, but if your self-worth depends on how others respond, the mask always slips. That's why mastering attraction begins with mastering your self-concept. You must become the kind of man who trusts himself deeply, who respects his own standards, and who never compromises his peace just to be liked. Because the moment you trade authenticity for approval, you lose both. Women are instinctively drawn to men who lead themselves, not through dominance or control, but through direction and self-respect. A man who knows his path doesn't seek permission to walk it. He moves with quiet certainty, with clarity, with focus. That's what confidence truly is, the absence of need. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It simply exists. And the stronger your inner peace, the louder your presence becomes without you having to say a single word. That's the paradox of true attraction. The less you try to be noticed, the more magnetic you become. There's something incredibly rare about a man who's grounded. He listens more than he speaks. He observes more than he reacts. He chooses his words with care because he doesn't need to prove anything. That calmness is intoxicating. It tells a woman that you're not easily shaken, that you've built emotional control, the ultimate sign of masculine power, because emotional control isn't about suppression, it's about mastery. It's the art of responding instead of reacting, staying composed instead of desperate, and walking away when your peace is at risk. That kind of man doesn't chase. He attracts, because his value speaks before his mouth does. If you want to be chased, you must first become a man who has something worth chasing. Not material possessions, not a flashy lifestyle, but a mindset, one that radiates direction, strength, and certainty. You must be devoted to your purpose more than to people's opinions. You must build a life that fulfills you so deeply that anyone who enters it feels lucky to be part of it. When you stop running after validation, you start walking in power, and that power becomes irresistible. Stay rooted in your truth. Let your silence show strength. Let your focus speak louder than your desire to impress. When you stand tall in who you are, you become the mirror of every woman's hidden desire, a man who doesn't seek but is sought, a man who doesn't chase but is chosen, a man who lives by one unshakable truth. The greatest attraction begins the moment you stop trying to be seen and start being someone worth finding. Most men believe attraction is about what they give, what they say, or how much they do, but real attraction begins with what you withhold. Your energy, your attention, your emotional availability. The more freely you give these things away, the less valuable they become. When every woman can access your focus, your presence no longer feels special. But when you become intentional, when you protect your attention like it's gold, you create scarcity, and scarcity breeds value. The truth is, people chase what they can't easily have, not because they're manipulative, but because rarity creates meaning. When a woman feels that your energy is not freely given, she starts to pay attention. She notices how you move, how you speak, how little you need her validation. She feels the weight of your calmness, the quiet strength behind your distance. That distance doesn't communicate arrogance. It communicates discipline. It says you're not looking to be entertained. You're looking to be understood. It says you've built enough within yourself that you don't rely on someone else to feel complete. And that's the kind of energy that turns admiration into desire. But to hold that energy, you must first confront your need for approval. Because every man at some level wants to be seen, appreciated, and desired. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem begins when your sense of worth depends on how others respond to you. That dependency is invisible, but it leaks through every word, every look, every reaction. It tells the world you need to be chosen to feel valuable. And when you operate from that place, you'll always be chasing. You'll chase validation, attention, connection, everything that should be naturally attracted to you. True freedom comes when you no longer chase what's meant to find you, when you stop trying to prove you're enough and start living like you already are. That's when your energy shifts. That's when you become magnetic without effort. The key is detachment, not from love, but from outcome. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you're open to connection, but not desperate for it. You enjoy attention, but don't depend on it. You appreciate attraction, but never sacrifice your peace to maintain it. That level of emotional independence is rare, and that's why it's powerful. A man who has mastered detachment becomes unpredictable, not because he's playing games, but because his emotions aren't controlled by others. He's not waiting for texts, not obsessing over reactions, not adjusting his mood based on someone's approval. He lives his life on his terms. And that quiet confidence creates tension, the kind that draws people closer without a single word. Women are deeply attracted to emotional stability because it represents strength, protection, and leadership. They feel safe in the presence of a man who cannot be easily shaken. So learn to hold your ground. Let your emotions serve you, not control you. When you stop giving your power away through neediness, you become the kind of man every woman wants to understand, but few can figure out. You become a mystery wrapped in peace, and nothing is more attractive than that. A man who wants nothing yet attracts everything, who gives nothing away yet receives everything back simply because he's mastered himself. That's the kind of man who doesn't need to chase. He's already being chased. There's a certain power that lives in a man who moves with purpose. A man who wakes up each day knowing what he's building, why he's building it, and what kind of life he's shaping. That kind of man doesn't get distracted by temporary attention because his vision is larger than any single moment. His focus becomes his magnet. His ambition becomes his signal. Every action he takes whispers something powerful, that he's not searching for someone to complete him. He's too busy becoming complete on his own. That's the kind of energy that makes a woman chase, because it's rare, it's disciplined, and it's unshakably masculine. A man without direction is like a flame in the wind, easily swayed, easily extinguished. But a man with purpose is like fire behind glass, controlled, focused, impossible to ignore. Purpose gives you clarity. It creates boundaries. It eliminates desperation because it gives your life meaning beyond relationships and attention. When your goals are clear, when your mission is alive inside you, everything else becomes secondary. That sense of priority makes you powerful. It tells the world that you're not looking for distraction. You're looking for depth. And that kind of strength draws people in because most are searching for someone who knows where they're going. When a woman sees a man driven by something greater than her attention, she feels both admiration and curiosity. She wants to understand that fire. She wants to be near it, not because she owns it, but because it inspires her. That's the kind of attraction that doesn't fade. It's not based on charm or looks. It's based on energy. Purpose creates polarity, a natural tension between focus and fascination. The more you pour your energy into becoming the best version of yourself, the more people are drawn to witness that evolution. Your grind becomes your language. Your discipline becomes your aura. Your peace becomes your power. Every man must ask himself, what am I building that outlives my emotions? What do I wake up for when no one is watching? Because when your purpose becomes your priority, rejection loses its sting. You no longer see it as loss, but as redirection. You no longer chase attention because you're already fulfilled by your mission. And that shift changes everything. Women don't want to complete a man's life. They want to join a man who already has one. They want to be part of something that feels grounded, alive, and expanding. That's what your purpose gives you. It makes your life magnetic on its own. The man who is lost in his own vision doesn't chase anything. He simply walks his path, and those meant for him align naturally. That's what confidence truly looks like. Not loud words or showy confidence, but the quiet certainty of knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be. That calm focus is irresistible. It says you're not playing games, you're building something real. It says you're not looking for entertainment, you're cultivating legacy. When you embody that, women don't see you as an option, they see you as an experience. So never trade your mission for momentary attention. Let your purpose lead, let your actions speak, and let your discipline define your worth. Because when your life reflects direction and meaning, you become the rarest type of man, the one who doesn't chase validation, but whose very existence commands it. And that's when the world and every woman within it begins to chase you. There is a quiet strength in the man who is selective, the man who no longer says yes to everything and everyone, the one who has learned that his time, his energy, and his attention are sacred currencies that must be spent with intention. Most men scatter their energy across distractions, chasing every opportunity for validation, responding to every hint of interest, losing themselves in temporary connections that lead nowhere. But the man who understands his worth guards his energy like treasure. He knows not everyone deserves access to his world. He knows that saying no isn't rejection, it's self-respect. When you become selective, you raise your value instantly, not because you're playing games, but because you're showing the world that your attention must be earned. That quiet confidence speaks volumes. It says you are no longer moved by flattery, no longer driven by impulse, and no longer willing to trade peace for temporary excitement. You move with standards now. You understand that not every woman can meet the energy you bring, and that realization makes you magnetic because scarcity always breeds desire. When something becomes rare, it becomes sought after. When a man becomes hard to reach, people start reaching harder. But being selective isn't about building walls. It's about building worth. It's about knowing that connection without alignment is chaos. You can't create peace with someone who doesn't share your values. You can't grow with someone who doesn't understand your mission. When you raise your standards, you stop confusing attention with compatibility. You stop craving what's temporary. You stop chasing what drains you. You begin to move differently, slower, calmer, wiser. That calmness doesn't repel people, it draws them in. It forces them to match your pace, to rise to your level, to meet you where your peace lives. Women feel that difference immediately. They sense when a man isn't desperate to be chosen because he's already chosen himself. That self-certainty shifts the dynamic completely. It creates tension, not the kind born from ego, but from presence. It makes a woman question why you're not giving her the same energy others do. It makes her wonder what you value, what you protect, and what she must do to earn a place in your life. That curiosity becomes pursuit. That pursuit becomes connection. And that connection is built on mutual respect, not emotional dependency. Every time you choose yourself over attention, you strengthen your presence. Every time you walk away from something that doesn't serve your peace, you amplify your power. Because real attraction isn't built through trying harder. It's built through standing taller. It's about becoming so grounded in who you are that nothing external can shake you. And that groundedness sends a message louder than words ever could. That your world isn't open to everyone. That access must be earned through consistency, respect, and alignment. Be the man who values quality over quantity. The man who listens to his intuition more than his impulses. The man who would rather be alone in peace than surrounded by chaos. When you reach that level of discipline, you no longer chase, you attract effortlessly. You draw in women who recognize your worth because you've already recognized it yourself. That's the paradox of attraction. When you stop offering yourself too easily, the world starts chasing the parts of you it can no longer touch freely. And that's how a man becomes unforgettable. A man becomes magnetic when he learns to master his emotions, not by hiding them, but by owning them. Because the truth is, emotions are not weakness. They are power when guided with control. Most men lose attraction the moment they lose composure. They let rejection shake them. They let silence disturb them. They let inconsistency break their confidence. But the man who remains still in the midst of emotional noise stands out like a flame that refuses to die in the wind. He doesn't chase reassurance. He doesn't beg for clarity. He doesn't react to confusion. His peace is his dominance. His control is his allure. The more calm you become, the more powerful your presence grows, because emotional control tells the world that you cannot be manipulated. It tells women that your validation cannot be earned through games, that your mood cannot be controlled through attention. You become steady, and that steadiness is intoxicating. It makes people want to understand you, to reach your emotional level, to figure out how you remain so centered when everyone else is desperate for control. That's how you shift the dynamic without a single word. You stop chasing and everything starts gravitating toward you. Control doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you don't let feelings dictate your direction. It means you feel fully, but move wisely. When you master that, you stop reacting from insecurity and start responding from strength. You stop taking silence personally. You stop trying to prove your worth through effort. You realize that no amount of attention can replace the peace that comes from inner certainty. And once that realization settles in, desperation dies. The constant need for validation disappears. You begin to understand that the only approval that truly matters is your own. Women are deeply drawn to a man who can hold his ground emotionally. Not because he's cold, but because he's safe. His stability gives them permission to relax. His composure creates trust. His strength feels like peace in a world full of chaos. A woman doesn't chase a man because of his perfection. She chases him because of how she feels in his presence. Calm, seen, understood, and grounded. That energy doesn't come from charm. It comes from discipline. It comes from self-awareness. It comes from emotional control so deep that no reaction can pull you out of balance. When you master your emotions, your silence becomes louder than any argument. Your patience becomes your weapon. Your restraint becomes your respect. You no longer get dragged into emotional storms because you've learned that power isn't in reacting. It's in choosing when not to. That's how you earn respect without force. That's how you gain attraction without trying. Emotional mastery isn't something you show, it's something you radiate. It's the quiet confidence that tells the world, I don't need control over anyone because I already have control over myself. Be that man, the one who is calm when others panic, silent when others shout, patient when others rush. because the one who controls his emotions controls his destiny, and the one who controls his destiny doesn't chase anything, he attracts everything. That is the essence of masculine magnetism. It's not in the words you speak or the looks you receive. It's in the energy that says you cannot be moved, no matter what tries to shake you. There comes a point when you realize the ultimate form of attraction isn't built on attention, but on energy, the kind that flows from self-respect, discipline, and emotional mastery. When a man reaches this level, he no longer tries to impress. He simply expresses. He doesn't need to perform because his presence already speaks for him. He moves through life with quiet conviction, knowing that he doesn't need to chase love because love is naturally drawn to stability. And that's what makes him different. He radiates the calm confidence of a man who's already complete. You must understand that attraction is never about perfection. It's about polarity. It's about the energetic contrast between grounded masculinity and the world's chaos. When you embody calmness, when you stand firm in your values, when you refuse to be pulled into drama or desperation, you become the grounding force everyone seeks. People are drawn to what they can't easily shake. Women especially are drawn to the energy of consistency, the man who doesn't break character when faced with pressure. That kind of control doesn't just attract, it commands attention effortlessly. The real secret is this: presence is your most powerful form of attraction. Not your looks, not your words, but the depth of your presence. The way you make others feel seen and safe without needing to prove anything. Most men scatter their presence, giving bits of themselves to everything that glitters. But the man who learns to be fully present in the moment, who listens deeply, who looks without seeking, who moves without rushing, that man holds power that can't be faked. His stillness becomes electric, his silence becomes magnetic, his attention becomes rare, and therefore priceless. Every woman notices the man who doesn't crave recognition, yet naturally commands it, because his self-assurance makes her curious. She starts to wonder what gives him that unshakable peace, what keeps him centered when everyone else seeks validation. And that curiosity turns into pursuit. She begins to chase not because he's unavailable, but because his energy feels irreplaceable. That's what happens when you stop needing attention. Attention begins to need you. But to reach that level, you must become brutally honest with yourself. You must face your fears, fear of rejection, fear of loneliness, fear of not being enough. Because those fears are what make men chase. They make you seek externally what must be built internally. Once you confront those shadows and start healing them, you'll notice a powerful shift. You'll stop trying to fill emptiness with affection. You'll stop using connection as a bandage for insecurity. Instead, you'll start building from wholeness. You'll stop running after love and start embodying it. When you become whole, you stop negotiating your value. You stop proving your worth. You stop seeking peace in others because you've already found it in yourself. That's the level of strength that can't be ignored. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's quiet, it's steady, and it's undeniable. When a man reaches that place, the world begins to mirror his confidence. People respect him differently. Women feel his energy before he even speaks. Because that kind of man doesn't chase. He simply attracts through the gravity of his peace. And that peace, once mastered, becomes impossible to resist. The rarest kind of man is the one who lives by principle, not preference. He is not guided by fleeting emotions or shifting circumstances, but by a code, a personal standard that defines who he is, even when no one is watching. This kind of integrity is magnetic. It creates trust without words and respect without effort. Because in a world full of inconsistency, a man who stays grounded in his truth becomes a pillar of stability. Women don't just notice that kind of man, they feel him. His discipline speaks louder than his charm, his values louder than his voice. When your life is built on principle, you no longer chase acceptance because your sense of identity comes from within. You stop bending your boundaries to be liked and you start honoring them to stay aligned. That quiet self-respect changes everything. It shapes the way you walk, the way you respond, the way you show up. You begin to move differently, slower, sharper, more intentional. You no longer entertain what insults your peace. You no longer tolerate what weakens your purpose. And that level of conviction is rare because it requires strength most people don't have, the strength to say no when your emotions say yes. Women are drawn to that strength because it represents something sacred, safety, not the kind of safety that shields from danger, but the emotional safety that comes from being around a man who can't be easily swayed. His calm becomes her calm. His clarity becomes her comfort. His consistency becomes her desire. She doesn't chase him out of excitement, she chases him out of admiration. Because deep down, everyone longs to be close to something steady in a world that constantly shakes. You can't build that steadiness if you keep betraying yourself for temporary validation. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't serve you, you weaken your inner foundation. Every time you allow disrespect just to keep someone close, you teach the world that your boundaries are negotiable. You can't expect to be valued if you keep showing you're willing to trade your peace for attention. Real confidence comes from living by your principles, not your impulses. It's the daily decision to honor yourself even when it costs you comfort. Because comfort feeds weakness, but conviction builds power. When you live by principle, rejection no longer threatens you. You no longer fear loss because you've built something within yourself that no one can take away, integrity. That's the true source of masculine energy, doing what's right over what's easy, staying centered when others lose balance, and keeping your word when no one else does. That's the kind of strength that doesn't need validation, because it already validates itself through action. A man who lives by his principles doesn't chase attention, he earns respect. He doesn't manipulate emotion, he inspires it. He doesn't demand loyalty, he attracts it. Because his very presence communicates something powerful, that he's not looking for someone to complete him, he's looking for someone who can keep up with the life he's already built. That's what makes him unforgettable. Not his looks, not his status, but the quiet, unshakable consistency that only comes from knowing exactly who he is and refusing to become anything less.